Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to look at the JonBenet Ramsey case, but from a totally different angle. We're not just asking who done it. We're going to dive into the psychology of it all, using the strange gaps and inconsistencies in the story to try and understand the human behavior behind this tragedy. This quote right here, it really sets the stage. From the very beginning, this was the Ramsey family's position. They weren't just the grieving parents of a murdered child. They were also victims, in their own eyes, of a biased and hostile investigation. This one idea frames the entire conflict that followed.
So let's flip the script a little bit. For this explainer, let's move past just the what happened and really dig into the why. Why did people act the way they did? Why were certain decisions made? That's the real puzzle we're trying to solve today.
All right, Act 1. To even begin to understand this case, we have to start with the most raw, most human element of it all, the undeniable, documented suffering of Patsy Ramsey. I mean, the record on this is just crystal clear. In the weeks and months after her daughter's death, Patsy was going through some truly immense psychological and physical trauma. We're talking about a body and a mind in full-blown crisis mode. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This isn't just a vague feeling of sadness or a bad dream. She described a very specific sensory memory, a flashback of hearing her daughter scream. And that one specific detail creates a huge problem for the official story the family told.
Okay, so wait a minute. Psychologically speaking, flashbacks aren't things you just invent. They're fragments of real traumatic memories breaking through to the surface. So if the official narrative is that the entire house was dark and silent, where on earth did this memory of a scream come from? It's a major inconsistency.
So here's the thing. Her suffering was absolutely 100% real. Nobody questions that. But the source of that unbearable stress? Well, that's where it gets complicated. Because your body doesn't really care why it's under attack. The physical reaction, the panic, the PTSD, it would look almost identical under both of these scenarios. The body just knows it's in a fight for its life. And there's actually a term for this, cognitive dissonance. It's that awful, grinding mental stress you feel when you're trying to hold two completely contradictory ideas in your head at the same time. Your mind, and by extension, your body, just rebels. And those physical symptoms Patsy had, they are a classic example of a system buckling under that exact kind of pressure. And this is the philosophical challenge at the very heart of the case, isn't it? We instinctively want to believe that true, profound grief automatically equals innocence. But this case forces us to ask a much harder question. Is it possible for someone to be genuinely devastated by a tragedy while also being responsible for the very circumstances that created it? Okay, so let's move into Act 2. We've looked at the internal turmoil, now let's see how that translated into external strategic actions, because the family's legal defense started coming together just hours after that 911 call. I mean, just look at this timeline. It is breathtakingly fast. While police are still trying to figure out what's going on in a very chaotic crime scene, a legal defense is already being built. Before the investigators have even formally asked for interviews, a lawyer is on site, controlling the flow of information. You know, the Ramseys' actions here weren't reactive, they were preemptive. It's the difference between putting up sandbags because you see a hurricane on the forecast versus scrambling to put them up after your basement has already flooded. They seemed to know a storm was coming for them. The question is, why? You know, forensic psychology gives us a really useful lens for this. It tells us that, typically, innocent people tend to over-cooperate. They share everything because they truly believe the truth is their greatest ally. But the behavior we see here, it aligns almost perfectly with a defensive mindset, where information isn't shared freely, it's managed, because full transparency is seen as a huge risk. And this brings us to maybe the most difficult part of the whole puzzle, Burke. You have a child who is in the house, a potential witness, and a wall goes up around him, immediately and completely. And it puts investigators in an impossible position. Was this about protecting a traumatized child? Or was it about protecting the investigation from something that child might innocently reveal? So, for our final act, let's try a different approach. Let's assume for a moment that these defensive moves are part of a cover-up. What can the shape of that cover-up tell us about the secret it was designed to protect? This is kind of like reverse engineering a secret. You treat the absence of information as a clue in itself. You can actually map out the shape of the thing being hidden by carefully tracing the walls that were built to protect it. In a case like this, silence can be incredibly loud.
And when you apply that method here, wow, a pattern shows up almost immediately. The legal walls are the highest, the defenses are the strongest around these very specific areas. This suggests that the defense wasn't random at all. It was targeted right at the places where the most dangerous truths were buried. And you have to remember, a cover-up like this isn't just for the outside world. It's not just about hiding facts from the police. It's also a powerful psychological tool for the inside. It's the new story you tell yourself so you can live with what happened. And the more complex the defense, the more catastrophic the truth it's trying to hide must be.
And make no mistake, what we saw was incredibly sophisticated. This wasn't some panicked amateur effort. This was an intelligent, well-funded, long-term defense strategy that required access to top-tier experts in law and public relations. This was the work of people who understood the stakes from the very beginning.
And so, that's what it all comes down to. The case itself may officially be unsolved, but the human behavior, the nature of the suffering, the architecture of the defense, the clear shape of what's being hidden, that tells a story all its own. And it leaves us with one final, haunting question to think about.